What's up guys? So it's no secret that Galaxy Heroes has been a little bit dull lately, not a great deal to do, so I've been using that time to try and find more teams that can auto solo the heroic AAT. Because let's face it, we all want the extra rewards with minimal effort, and we've stumbled across a team. Me and a couple of buddies, Toad the Nuisance, Joby and Raider Hater, we're all messing around with various first order squads, and we have one. We have a first order team that can do this with no aiming whatsoever, just load it up, hit auto, and win in less than 15 minutes. So let's go on with this video, guys. Let's do this. Okay, this is the team. This 5 right here will do the business, although you can actually do this with Kylo Unmasked in place of Stormtrooper. It's just a little bit more dicey in phase 2. All we're going to do straight away, hit auto, take the cursor off the screen. We're not even going to need it now. No manual targeting required whatsoever, and that's one thing I absolutely love about this team. Grievous is essentially going to kill himself. He's going to keep hitting you, and the First Order is just going to keep countering him until he dies, because we're going to do so much damage, especially with all the assist attacks as well. I'll get into mods later on, but for the actual purpose of the characters, really Hux is there for his leadership. He's going to be boosting damage, he's going to be bringing a lot of assists and ability cooldowns, although the AI is going to kind of cool down whoever they want and not necessarily the optimal person. It still won't matter. When it comes to execution, obviously he's just there to continue stacking his health, which in turn boosts his offense, and he's just going to bring insane numbers of damage. So the higher his relic, the better. It would work with 6, it could possibly work with 5. 100% works with 7. So with 6 I found it was a little bit iffy in places, although to be fair I wasn't using Stormtrooper at the time, who in turn is bringing a lot more attacks, so you'd probably be fine with 6 as long as Stormtrooper's there. But with Kylo Unmasked it was just a little bit, I didn't feel comfortable with it. When it comes to First Order Officer, obviously he's there to be bringing the TN boost to the team, spreading advantage around, and he can also reduce turn meter when we get to phase 3, which is going to be very, very handy. He also helps reduce cooldowns of First Order allies. First Order Stormtrooper, obviously we know he brings assist attacks, defense up, slow, or speed down, whatever it's called in this game. So that's a really, really useful mechanic, and especially once his relic comes up, he becomes an incredibly effective tank as well. So he's going to even be able to take those big cannon shots that we get in phase 3, and it's not going to phase him. I would say relic 4 an absolute minimum, but really the key thing is getting his armor above the 60% threshold, which should be quite simple. I think mine is like 73 here, and these were just mods that were laying around. So once we get to that 6-dot mod area, you're not going to have any problems reaching that, and he's just not going to die. He's surprisingly tanky, and I admittedly was a little concerned when first plugging him in place of Kylo, because obviously Kylo heals so well, such an effective tank. Lastly, obviously, Sif Trooper. What more is there to say about him? I mean, you can see in the footage right now the amount of times he assists, the amount of damage he does, and also AoE damage. Really, really handy for phase 3, and very, very handy for dealing with these tanks and getting those turrets down. So that's kind of all there is to it. That explains why the team works so effectively. I have tried some other lineups. I plugged in First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter at one point, and yeah, he was pretty great too. Obviously AoE damage and the such, so I'm pretty sure he does defense down as well, which really, really helped against the tank. I've tried so many teams, I'm forgetting little bits now as I inform you on what I was using, but I think we tried Masked Kylo as well, which was quite handy, but it really came down to what he felt like targeting. Sometimes he just wasn't using his AoE attack when we needed to take down turrets, and the AI can be quite stupid at times as well. Like there'll be one turret alive and they just focus on the hull of the tank, completely ignore that turret until other turrets start coming back to life. It's infuriating, but this team, due to all the additional assists with Stormtrooper, doesn't seem to have that problem. It absolutely slaughters the tank, and phase 2 is the harder of the 4 phases, that's for sure. But when it comes to mods, I'll break these down now roughly. I'll show the ones I used at the end, but really you're not going to need the same ones I had. When it comes to Hux, speed, that's all that matters. Get him as fast as you can. Secondary set, I don't know, defense, health, doesn't really matter. Something that just gives him that additional survivability. He's going to heal up absolutely fine. As you saw, Grievous really went to town on him, and that's a worst case scenario, because normally Grievous will, spread his damage around or go after one of the damage dealers. It's not often he even really bothers with Hux, and that's all he seemed to want to do today. But yeah, he'll heal up, no problem. You'll see by the phase 3 we'll be probably back in green health, in fact. First Order Officer, exactly the same thing. Speed, make him as fast as you possibly can. He doesn't need to be ridiculously quick, but the quicker the better. It's just going to speed up your runs, really. For a secondary set, again, just go for some survivability, some health, some defense, something like that. Sif Trooper, crits. Just get those crit sets on and as much damage as possible, even like an offense arrow as well as an offense primary cross. Just want as many offense secondaries as you can get. Really want to push that physical damage of his over 9,000 if possible. And yeah, that really shouldn't be that difficult at Relic 7 anyway. Executioner, health. You're going to want the 4 crit damage mods with a crit damage primary triangle, then 2 health mods, health primaries everywhere you possibly can, because the higher his health gets, and which will stack throughout the battle, the more his offense will stack as well. You'll get bonus offense. I think it's equal to 5% of his max health, something like that. So yeah, that's what you really want to focus with on him. And for First Order Stormtrooper, really, it's going to be health and defense. You want to get that armor up. I think it was 2 health mods and 4 defense mods in this particular video, but it wouldn't have to be that. A couple of the other guys that were doing some testing on this, they just kind of left whatever mods had been on him for over 2 years now, so you really don't need world-class mods. And speed is also not critical to any of them other than the Hux and First Order Officer. I think the Executioner speed is something like 15. That's it, 15 total from mods. And I think Sif Trooper was somewhere around 70 odd, something like that. So they're not going to need to be lightning fast, and even then Hux and that won't need to be like 150 plus speed, nothing like that. Like 100 should do you fine, and that shouldn't be too difficult for people with relics to get to, I would imagine. As you see, right, that's the tank's about to drop. He's still got 3 turns till Enrage. As I said, this was not one of the perfect runs either. I wanted to show something that you're more likely to see. I find that you'll get a couple of runs that you'll have a few iffy moments that might make you feel uncomfortable the first time you see it, but the more you do it, you realize you're not in any danger. So I figured I'd showcase one of those runs where you're going to get a character down to red health, just to show you don't need to panic when it happens. As you can see, Hux is very, very quickly healing. And this phase does not last. This phase and phase 4 do not last very long at all. They get absolutely shredded. Obviously, with the TM reduction coming from Executioner and First Order Officer in this team, the Rocket Trooper doesn't get all that many turns, and he will bring back his droids, but if Sif Trooper decides to do an AoE, they pretty much all die in one hit, and if not, the AI is semi-smart and will take them out, or just counter them to death anyway. And the turret, the big tank, it won't be able to kill First Order Stormtrooper, so don't worry. You'll see it take a shot in a second. I think it'll do about quarter damage, and then Stormtrooper will end up healing by the time he takes the next one, so nothing to be remotely concerned about. There you go, about quarter damage at absolute worst. And we've already done, what was that, 25% damage, yet we've got, what, 13 turns until Enrage? No way are you ever going to be any danger here. The most dicey phase in the entire thing, number 2, and that's just because the tank is pretty healthy there, and the AI can be a little bit stupid at targeting turrets. But as long as you've got Stormtrooper in there, you shouldn't really have any issues. No, I've had none since plugging him in. I did admittedly have them with Kylo Unmasked, even though I know it is possible with him. If I was using Kylo Unmasked, I would probably want to do a little bit manual targeting in phase 2, just for my own peace of mind. I've just seen it before where the tank gets down to about 20% health and there's still like 6 turns to Enrage, and then the AI just decides to completely ignore the turrets or kill 2 and ignore the last one until the others revive, and you end up in a loop where the tank's getting a ton of turns that it really shouldn't even need, and a one manual click on that turret and it would drop. But with Stormtrooper, sorry, you don't have that problem. So many assist attacks, so much damage, and you're never at any risk thanks to his defense up as well, which is one thing I absolutely love. That becomes absolutely critical in phase 4, because obviously when you get the bombing run, sometimes defense up is the only buff you have on. Right, we're very, very close to taking out the rocket trooper now. 36% to go. Obviously the AI's done some pretty non-optimal attacking here, and we're still doing absolutely fine. Plenty of cushion. Look at those assist attacks from Sif Trooper. Absolutely crazy. Even when like the AI starts doing random like buff cleanses and stuff like that it doesn't even need to do, you're still absolutely fine. Not even half, well, yes, actually just gone halfway to enrage. 13% left. Maybe one more big barrage and that'll be it. 4%, 1%, and he's out of here. Right, he's down. Phase 4 time. I love this phase because I was initially a little bit concerned. I was like, oh, 2 was a bit of a chore. How's 4 gonna be? And then it went straight in, and I just like sat there giggling to myself because it just melted. It reminded me of the old Princess Zodi team. Clones with Princess Leia, for anybody that wasn't playing back when Heroic AAT was actually a difficult raid, and it used to just rip the raid to shreds in this phase. Not quite as impressive in phase 2, but yeah, this team just makes a complete mockery of this raid. And the fact is, most of us are going to end up having to develop this at some point, because there's absolutely no doubt that the Supreme Leader, Kylo Ren, is going to need really powerful characters to unlock him at 7 star. That goes without saying. We've seen that trend, that pattern, when it comes to Malak, when it comes to General Skywalker. And these Galactic Legends are supposed to be even more special, so I wouldn't be surprised if you absolutely have to have relic characters for that, and in which case, well, these are among the very best of them, so you're going to end up having them and can just use them here as well. Those of you lucky whales that have been able to spend and have Hux already at this power, and Sif Trooper of course, you're going to be able to get loads of fun out of this immediately. I personally have to sit and wait until they're farmable, but you know, I will try not to be bitter. Where it's what, 70% is all that remains, and that was on the first topple. Crazy how quick this one goes down. Still 14 turns to the rage. And we've almost taken half of the health. The AI actually being somewhat intelligent here and picking off targets one by one until this exact point where it decides to ignore that last turret. You'll see this, but you don't really have to worry. As long as your Sif Trooper is Relic 7 in particular, that AoE just more or less destroys the turrets in a shot. Only again in phase 2 can they sometimes survive a smidge of health. And that's what causes that slight diciness to the battles. Right, beyond halfway now. And he's still not even up from his second topple. Hasn't even had an additional turn yet. 39, 38, 36. Absolutely melting. So once you're past phase 2, you can just relax. You're at absolutely no risk of losing whatsoever in phase 3 or 4. 1 can feel scary, but it's not, so don't panic. And 2 is the one where you'll probably want to watch it a first few times, but the higher your relics get, or the better your mods. If you're able to push your speeds to say 130 plus on Hux and an officer, I don't think you would even need to pay attention to it, but I'm doing it a fair bit slower, and I'll show you just after this ends. It looks like it's going to end probably on this topple, in fact, because, I mean, look at this. Look at that health just completely declining. It's crazy to think that once this raid was tough. 7, 6. Is it going to go before it stands up, or is it going to get to stand? Really close. It actually got back up. Wow, 2.9%. That's what I mean right there. Like, the only buff that was on Executioner was defense up. So, comes in very, very handy. They're probably just going to kill it without toppling. Yep, there you go. And that's the solo done. Crazy team. I love this team. It's so much fun. Because First Order are one of those teams that people are like, oh, I've got to build them up, but they can't really do anything outside of beating some C tier teams. Then this comes along, and obviously the phase 1 guide that I showed in 45% in a heroic Sif raid. Now suddenly these characters have some real use. There we go, 48 million, 23 of it from Sif Trooper and 19 from Executioner. For anyone that wants a more in-depth view of the mods, here you go. I'll show you all 5 characters. I'm not going to voice this part over because it's really for just those that want to look more in depth, but you're not going to need the more 6-dot. You're not going to need identical mods to these, so don't panic. Just use what you've got and gradually power them up as you can. You're not going to need to copy this to get this to work. So hopefully I won't see any of those comments like, oh, well, I don't have all of them 6-dot, blah, blah, blah. Please listen. You're not going to need that. This is just what's there on this account. I broke down the ideal sets during the actual gameplay, and you're going to see pretty similar sets to that here. But as I said, this is just for those that want to see it, and I'll see you in the outro. And that's it for this video, guys. While most of us won't be able to get use out of this immediately because we won't have huts unless we've whaled out, he's going to be farmable before long, and First Order are going to be needed, no doubt, for the Galactic Legends. So we're going to have these characters built up regardless, and it's just another use that we'll get out of them. One nice thing is speed isn't really the main factor. As you saw by the mods, they're all pretty standard. Some of the characters were incredibly slow. It really just comes down to Relic 7 on the Sif Trooper and First Order Executioner, though I suspect you won't actually need them Relic 7 because First Order Stormtrooper is applying so many assists. So thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe, and until next time, we outta here.